Okay, thanks for your waiting. So we will start our today's lecture, okay? So I think everybody's internet connection is okay. So today we will have a subject to talk about the Luckin Coffee. Luckin Coffee. And first of all, just I'm very honored to be invited by the Golden Education and the ACCA to provide this lecture. So I think this lecture is mainly brought to Hong Kong area, Taiwan, and Singapore. This kind of. So I'm not sure where you come from, and also you can tell me from the screen where are you located? Maybe you are in Hong Kong or in, and also I'm just located in Toronto. So today our lecture I'm brought from Toronto. Oh, maybe from UK. Oh, okay, perfect. So before the start of our lecture, please give me a minute to introduce myself first, okay? So my name is Scott. Okay, I'm a fellow ACCA member, and I'm also a member of CICPA, Hong Kong CPA, and CPA in Canada. So I'm an accountant, right? So I have been in financial area. So in the financial area, working more than maybe more than 15 years. So my career started in Big Four accounting firms. So I have been working in Ernst Young for more than 7 years, and the position as audit managers. After I leave Ernst Young, I also go to one of the China's largest financial group. It's CITIC Group. So I'm in CITIC Group. I'm just in the CITIC Industry Investment Group, which is the group is focused on investment in specific industries. When the CITIC just want to invest or just want to go to some specific industries, we will make some investment for that. So I have been, as a financial manager, the head in investor relations, and also company secretary in CITIC Industry Investment Group for more than 3 years. So this is my first career, maybe mainly in the mainland China. And then I come to Canada, right? Mainly for my child, right? So I go to the North America to continue my career, yes. So currently, I think I am a partner in accounting firm. The accounting firm is also founded by me. Yes, so I'm a partner in a local accounting firm which is founded by me and mainly focus on financial, tax, and consulting service to local companies and also to many Chinese maybe cross-border investment. And I'm also an independent director and the chairman of Audit Committee of a listing group in Hong Kong. So I'm also an independent director of a listing companies. That's why today we will discuss about Luckin Coffee, right? To see its accounting scandal, how it is come, and why, who released the accounting scandal. We will talk something about the corporate governance, right? And also we will talk about its business model of Luckin Coffee. Is it a sustainable business model, or it is just something like a story to attract investors? And also we will discuss about the Luckin Coffee's today's situation. Is it still listed? Is it still, the company is still living well, or the company disappear in the capital market? So the last part we will also talk about Luckin Coffee's today's situation. This is, I just think, we will talk. This is our main topic of our today's lectures. So I just think, first of all, I just think I want to ask a question: is that have you ever taste Luckin Coffee? I think it's a Chinese brand, right? So have you ever had the opportunity to taste Luckin Coffee? Or you just hear about the company's name? Okay, of course means you have tasted, right? So how about Luckin Coffee? You think, is it taste good? Or is this just like Starbucks? Or it is just like another brand in Canada, local brand in Canada, Tim Horton? good. You just think it tastes good, right? It's very cheap. Yeah. This is normally just we think about Luckin Coffee, right? So for the first part of our lectures, we will just brief review Luckin Coffee. And the main part is its IPO process. We will see this company is very magic. Why it is very magic? Because the company's IPO process is very fast, very fast. Luckin Coffee, when it is incorporated in October 2017. So the first store opened in China. Remember the date, October 2017. However, you can see through the timeline, after almost 1 year later, there are 2,500 stores opened in China. Do you know how many stores, Starbucks stores opened in China at that time? I think it is around some figure around 1,300, right? But only 1 year later, almost more than 1 year later, Luckin Coffee opened 2,500 stores. So you can see that its speed is really very fast. Also, even it's a magic, right? And then 5 months later, Luckin Coffee successfully listed in NASDAQ in US. So you can see that this is really, I think, based my past working experience in Ernst Young. My working experience in Ernst Young, I have made a lot of IPO projects, right? So I just think never I have heard a company that only incorporate in 2 years and then successfully listed in the NASDAQ. So you can see that its speed is very fast. And also the audit for Luckin Coffee. Do you know the audit of Luckin Coffee? Do you know? Also Ernst Young. Just my team, just when I work in Ernst Young, it's my team to do the IPO project of Luckin Coffee. That's why also I will just choose this topic to discuss with you about the Luckin Coffee. So yeah, someone will just ask where its money comes from, right? So the second page I will show you is that why it's so fast that in almost 1 year it can open more than 2,500 stores. Where is its money comes from, right? So it is normally the current business model in China for many companies. Maybe you also have heard Didi, right? Also, a kind of business model, it's that it is just to invest a lot in the market to provide a lot of promotion to the customer, to attract customer to use their apps, to use their service, right? But where is the money comes from? The money comes from many funds, right? So you can see from this table is that almost in the late 2017 and early 2018, Luckin Coffee has experienced several series of financings in 2018, mainly in 2018. You can see that in April, it has some first round, we also called angel fund, right? Angel round. Angel round, so it financed several million, several millions from the capital market, right? And also 3 months later, it started its A round financing. A round. So for A round financing, it is more than 200 million US dollar. So 200 million US dollar for the A round, almost 3 months after its first angel round. So I'm not sure whether you have heard about what is angel round, A round, B round, B plus round, C round. Normally, before a company successfully make its IPO in the capital market, it needs funds, right? It needs funds to expand its business and also to demonstrate that its business model is correct, right? So at that time, where is the funds from? Will the bank lend money to this kind of companies for newly start companies? Will the bank lend money to them? Do you think it will lend money to them? I think no, right? And so its fund mainly comes where? Comes mainly just private equities from many venture capitals we call the PEVC, this kind of funds. They made investment, right? And they want to what? They want to acquire much higher gain, right? So this is we also call this PEVC. Some PEVC prefer to invest some early stage companies. However, others want to invest some late stage. So what is the difference between the early stage and the late stage? What do you think? What is the difference between that? So normally we think that in early stage, the risk is higher, right? So also in the financing areas, maybe you have heard this word is the higher the risk, the higher the return, right? So normally just in angel fund, many in this kind of PE or VC will face much higher risks. However, their return will be much higher, right? So also just you can see that 5 months later at December, the company started its B round investing. So you can see that for many this kind of companies in China currently, they will raising funds from the capital market. They from capital market to invest. So this is 400 million USD dollars support the companies to open 2,500 stores in China. And also you can imagine that when you invest so many stores almost in 1 year, do you think that the company will make money? I just think that the stores will make money. Each store will make money. I'm not sure. Some of you have said that you have tasted Luckin Coffee, right? So before you want to taste Luckin Coffee, the first thing you need to do is what? Do you know? You have to download the app, right? Download the app from App Store, right? So after you download the app from the App Store, you make registration, you will receive a discount from the app, right? Almost at that time, the first coffee you have is almost free of charge. You will receive a free of charge just discount from the app, right? And then the second coffee you need to pay is almost you only maybe spend 10% of the normal price. Maybe only cost you 3 to 5 RMB. You can taste the second cup. And then you will have a lot of just discounts you received from the app every day. So actually you can see that at that time when you first taste Luckin Coffee, each cup only maybe takes you maybe just maybe 3 to 5 or 3 to 10 RMB caps just for at that time, especially in 2018 at that time. So why the strategy use this? Do you think? Why? Because it's also just learns from DD, right? Just it provide free of charge or even very low price coffees to attract customers to use the app, right? To taste the coffee, right? This is the first thing maybe you can understand from that. However, another story behind that is that it wants to show the figures. What kind of figures? It wants to show its growth rate, its registration number, its growth rate to the capital market, that it grows very fast, right? And also, people, just not the first time it tastes, it will reorder rate, right? So this is just also the reason behind this is want to show the capital market its faster growth rate. And then you can see that when the investor receives this kind of data, its growth rate, it say, oh, it's perform good, right? And then you can see the companies in financing is very quickly, A round, B round, B plus round, almost completed in 1 year. So just in the May next year, in 2019, Luckin Coffee successfully listed in NASDAQ, right? So this is a very, I think before the May 2019, Luckin Coffee just showed a very successful story, a very successful market model, business model to show to us is that a company started maybe in the first year and very fast obtain from funds from the PEVC, and then you have enough money to make the investment to attract the customer, and then use this very, we say pretty figures to attract the capital market to invest more, and then make it listed. This is the models recent years many Chinese especially I just say new economy corporation, right? This kind of business use this kind of model to attract capital market to make it a successful list. However, still, I just want to ask a question here to let you consider why Luckin Coffee could make it its IPO, especially it's listed in NASDAQ, not in Hong Kong market. Because why it choose NASDAQ, not Hong Kong, as its listing place? Do you know? What is the reason behind this? I think the first reason behind that is you can imagine that in 1 year, 2,500 stores opened. And also, when Luckin Coffee attract customers, it provides a very low price, even free of charge coffees. So you think whether Luckin Coffee could make money in the first year? I think I think everybody of course thinks that it cannot make money at that, right? It will lose money, right? So normally at that time for Hong Kong IPOs, a losing money company, maybe it's very hard to be listed in Hong Kong. However, in NASDAQ, there is not strict regulations for losing money. So many losing money companies will choose to be listed in US for their first choice. This is the first reasons why Luckin Coffee choose NASDAQ as its listing place. And the second is that behind the Luckin Coffee, I just think the management team is very clever because it showed a very good story. The story, we call it coffee or tea. Coffee or tea. Because you can understand that many, we say Chinese, our traditional just people prefer tea to coffee, right? Prefer tea to coffee. I'm not sure when some of you are living in UK, right? Currently, how many coffees average your daily coffee? How many cups? Before, when I was in China, when I was a college student, normally I only drink coffee before the exam, final exam. I will drink coffees, right? And when I go to Big Four accounting firms, maybe 1 cup daily. However, currently, almost 2 or 3 cups daily, right? This is because I'm currently in Canada. So there is coffee culture, maybe in UK, in Canada, in North America, right? There were this kind of coffee cultures there. And also, I just think that it's also in local China market. Not many people just are drinking coffee. However, I just think with the pressure, especially from maybe the persons working in financing areas, in IT areas, you will have a lot of pressures. You will have to work overtime, right? You have heard 996, maybe you have heard. Just working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and work 6 days every week, especially for some IT industries, right? And also you can see that if you work in accounting firms, normally we have peak seasons and flex seasons, right? just I can still remember that when the year I will promote to the manager, before promote to manager, when the year I was in Ernst Young, right? I have to, in the peak season from January after the Spring Festival, I did not have any rest. I will work until the next festival. I do not have 1 day rest. Do you know the next festival in China? It's April the 4th, right? So I just almost worked more than 2 months without any weekend, So we have some just very precious from our work. So at that time, we have to what? We have to drink coffee, right? Otherwise, we will be, it's hard for us to focus, to concentrate on working, right? So you can see that more and more Chinese people from students, even students, because you also have a lot of pressure. You have to take exams, right? You have a lot of pressure to find a good job, right? So you have to learn a lot. You have to also, some of you maybe also you have to take a lot of exams, just like ACCA, just like CPA, this kind of certificate. So you got a lot of pressures, and then you have to drink coffees. This is also the stories the Luckin Coffee told to the capital market. You can see that although currently the Chinese consumption on coffee, especially per person, is not very, is very low, right? Especially compared with the UK, with the North America. But more and more people just drink coffee, begin to drink coffee. And also we can force the coffee culture for them, right? This is the stories the Luckin Coffee to the capital market. So you can see that how many people in China? More than 1.4 billion, right? So it's a very huge market. So in this way, the investors globally accept this kind of culture because they are very familiar with the culture. That's why we can say that Luckin Coffee, when we have a brief of its history, you can see that it is very successful before May 2019. It's successfully listed in the NASDAQ. So this is, I think, the first phase stories for the Luckin Coffee. And I think some of you may be already familiar with the story. But, however, we can see that after maybe several months after its listing, you can see that in the early 2020, there is an accounting scandal of Luckin Coffee, right? It's a very huge accounting scandal. Just also affected many Chinese also listed company in NASDAQ. So some of you may be confused that why there is some accounting scandal. Why the Luckin Coffee make the accounting scandals for that? Why? Who is the person? Is this the management team make the accounting scandal? So I have a question also just I want to ask you. Just you can see that in the early 2020, the accounting scandal of Luckin Coffee is released to the public. My question is that, do you know which party finally release and confirm the accounting scandal to the public? Which party? Is it, maybe you have heard that the Muddy Water Research, the first professional research institution, just disclose there may be some accounting scandal for Luckin Coffee. They have made some research, and also some information is provided by another research institution in China, right? Provide to Muddy Water, and the Muddy Water finally released to the public first. Is it the Muddy Water finally confirmed the accounting scandal? Or it's Ernst Young, the accounting firm, finally confirmed the accounting scandal? See, the management team just release the accounting scandal to the public, the board. So do you think which party finally released and confirmed the accounting scandal to the public? So it's a very tricky story behind this. Why I just want to ask these questions? Because many of you maybe have already learned from your books about some corporate governance, the concept about corporate governance, right? So in this part, I will tell you what is the true corporate governance for listing companies. What is its mechanism behind this? So this is very interesting. So you can see that is it Ernst Young finally, I see past just say B, Ernst Young release. So if Ernst Young release or finally confirmed the accounting scandal, what will the situation for the management team? We will discuss a bit later here, okay? So do you know which date the company finally released the accounting scandal and confirmed? It is on April 2nd. So we can see that on the evening of April 2nd, Luckin Coffee make an announcement. What is announcement? Announcement is the information maybe is told by the company to the public. For listing companies, there is rules that people have to make announcement. The public company have to disclose material information to the public. It's a regulation by all the capital market. So we call it announcement. So Luckin Coffee issued an announcement stating that the board of directors has become a special committee to oversee an internal investigation. You can see that it's the board, right? Board has make a special committee to invest and finally confirm there is some accounting scandal, there is some cheat behind the company's management team. So you can see that it's finally the board released the information. And also there is a very interesting why it chose April 2nd to release. I think, do you know, you can guess why it chose April 2nd as the date to release the information. I think it's very interesting when you know some capital market. When you are more familiar with the capital market, you will find a lot of information. It's quite interesting. It says a lot of stories behind this. Why Luckin Coffee choose April 2nd? The board choose April 2nd to release the information. Because normally for all the public companies listed in U.S. and listed in Hong Kong, you know that the deadline just for public company to release its annual financial statement is March 31st, the end of March. So for Hong Kong listing companies and also for US listing companies whose fiscal year is December the 2nd, you have to announce your yearly financial information before March 31st. So if you did not disclose the information before March 31st, you have to tell the reason why. So you can see that March 31st is the deadline for annual financial statement release, right? So at that time, when we confirm, when the management team, together with Ernst Young, together with the board, know that there is some accounting scandal, the financial figures is not correct, do you think at that time, if Ernst Young wants to issue an audit report, what kind of opinion will Ernst Young issue, do you think? What kind of, Ernst Young could also issue a good opinion, do you think, behind this? So what kind of opinion will Ernst Young issue? I think many of you have learned a lot of knowledge about maybe auditor, right? Can Ernst Young issue a clean opinion behind this? I think if the financial report need to be released before March 31st, Ernst Young could only issue a disclaimer of opinion, right? Disclaimer, opinion, right? So at that time, Ernst Young could not issue an opinion. At that time, you have to understand that the board have to be what? Tell the reasons why the company cannot issue. And also, if Ernst Young issue the financial statement, tell the public that there is accounting scandal behind this, what will be the result? Do you know? If Ernst Young issued the opinion in March 31st, tell the public there is some false financial information behind the financial statement. Do you know what will be the result? The result, especially in the United States, is that the board will be responsible for that. The board will be responsible for that. Even the board members maybe will go to prison for that because the company, because for listing companies, the board will be responsible for the internal control and the corporate governance of a company. So there is some accounting false financial information and finally released by the accountant. The board will take the responsibility. That's why after March 31st, but not April 1st. Do you know why not April 1st? Because it's the Fool's Day, right? So on April 2nd, the board has to release the information to the public. It will show to the public that it's us to find that there is some just scandals, false information of the company. So we take the responsibility. We have found the false information and we just disclose to the public. So you can see that why after the accounting scandal, there is no board member go to the prison, right? There is some tricky items behind that. It's let the board member release the information to the public. That the board member will not be responsible for that. Otherwise, if it is finally confirmed or released by the Muddy Water, by the Ernst Young, or by some government authorities, by the SEC, the board will be responsible for that. This is, I think, it's the US capital market behind that. I just think also you can have understand for that. It's very interesting. So this is, I just tell you that why the board. So normally, just we called behind this is the corporate governance. Maybe you have learned about something about the corporate governance, right? Especially for listing companies, the board is very interesting because when you see the board, it's normally there are several directors constitute a board. However, for the directors, we will normally classify into executive directors, non-executive directors, and independent directors. Currently, I'm also an independent director of a listing company listed in Hong Kong stock market, right? I'm an independent director. Do I work in the company for independent director? No, I'm not work. I do not have any relation with the company. I do not have any transactions with the companies. I just position as an independent director. What is its role for that? I'm also the chairman of the audit committee. What is the role for the independent director? Normally for the Hong Kong stock market and also for the US stock market, it is the regulation that the board has to be consist some members, some independent directors, normally no less than 1/3. For independent directors, you do not engage in the normal operation of the companies. You do not take any management position of the companies. For executive and non-executive directors, normally you can have some another positions in the company. You will be the CEO of the company. For executive director, normally you will be the general managers. You will normally be the president of the company. You can have some positions from the management team. And also for the non-executive directors, you can also, maybe you are a head of the sales, head of the finance, right? You can have some positions in the company. But for independent directors, you can, just like the word independent, you cannot take any other positions in the companies. Normally you cannot have any transactions with the company. If you have to release all the transactions to the public. This is independent directors. So what's the role for the independent directors? Do you think, what is the role for the independent directors? The main role for the independent director is you have to be independent for the decision making. You have to review the company's financials and accountings. Just yesterday morning, I have also another meetings because it's August now, right? So many listing companies will announce its interim financial results to the public. So yesterday we have a pre-meeting to discuss about the company's performance by the board of directors to discuss. And then next week, I will be in charge to hold an audit committee meeting to review the interim financial statement prepared also by Ernst Young. Our accountant is also by the Ernst Young. So you can see that this kind of role is want to make sure what? Make sure the company is perform in good standing, right? And also it is want to make sure to protect most investors just its investment, right? This is the role for independent directors. So you can see that from here, you can see that normally in current capital market, the board, the constituent of the board, there are some different types of directors. They will focus on different things. So I did not focus on the management. I did not focus on the performance. I only focused to show that the company has good internal controls. They perform well for that. This is normally the independent directors do in the listing companies. And also you can see from Luckin Coffee is that there is also some directors here and also some independent director, right? You can see that each company there is some roles in the board. It is independent directors. So you can see that why the board released the information, released the accounting scandal to the public. It's the pressure from the independent director. You can see that. Do you think the management team, Charles Lu, right, Jenny Qian, you can see that it's the management team, right? It's the founder of Luckin Coffee. Jenny Qian is the founder of the Luckin Coffee, right? So do you think they want to release the information? I think normally they will not. They are reluctant to release the accounting scandal to the public, right? Because it will severely affect the stock price of Luckin Coffee. You can see that after the accounting scandal, you can see that the price of the Luckin Coffee is almost from 40 at the peak, right? To only at that time around maybe under 5. Also, it's maybe 2 to 3 after the accounting scandal. So there is a huge loss for the founder, also for many investors, right? This is why they are reluctant to release the information to the public. So, but due to the corporate governance, you have the independent director in the board. We do not hold many shares. We do not hold any shares in the companies, right? We also do not hold any positions in the company, right? So it's the pressure from the independent directors that make the company to release the information. Why? Because for the independent directors, normally there is an audit committee under the board. So the audit committee needs to approve the financial statement first, right? So this is also just like me. I'm also, you can see, I'm also the chairman. I'm an independent director of a listing company, right? Listed in Hong Kong, stock code. So I'm also the chairman of the audit committees. So for the financial statement prepared by the Ernst Young, it needs to review by our audit committee first. After we have signed the financial statement, and then it will submit to the board for final approval, right? So you can see that I do not hold any interest in the companies, right? I do not hold any position, other management position in the company, right? But if the accounting scandal is released to the public, maybe I'm the first person, the chairman of the audit committee, maybe is the primary responsible person, will go to the prison, right? So at that time, do you think if I'm also the chairman of audit committee of Luckin Coffee, should I will sign on the financial statement with false information? Do you think I will sign it or not? Of course, I will not sign it, right? And also, if there is some public information saying that there may be some false information of the financial statement, I'm also the first person to be nervous, right? So I have to ask the board to what? To set up a special team, maybe to hire another Big Four accounting firm to make an investigation, to give us some conclusion whether the management team has made some accounting scandal for that, right? So you can see that this is the mechanism in the board. It's also related to a good corporate governance for listing companies. So why at last the accounting scandal was released by the government? So I just think everybody should know some actually the true capital market corporate governance, because I think also if you have learned some knowledge in the textbook, you can see that traditional, before the listing companies, normally maybe in several hundred years before, when you do business, owner normally, the person is the owner, is also maybe the person is the management, right? And after capitalism, the main difference is that we can have a lot of owners to invest in the companies. However, you have maybe several hundred, even several thousand, even several million in owners. We say the shareholders. But however, for the company, you could only make by one management team, right? So the owner and the management has been separated. You are the owner, but you are not the management, right? So there are a lot of shareholders. You have to make decisions because the company is yours, right? But the management team is only hired by the shareholder. They are not the owner, right? But if there are too many shareholders, normally they cannot make decisions for that. That's why we need the board of directors. Board of directors should be elected by the shareholder and to represent their interest. This is, you can see from the normal textbook learning about the corporate governance. So currently, you can also see that actually in current market, the board hold a very, very important role in the company because it is elected by the shareholder. It should be represent shareholders' interest. And also it needs to supervise the management because the management do not hold any interest in the company. They receive only pays, right, for their work. If there is no supervisor, there is no any regulation to oversee them, you can see that they will hold with their own interest, right? They will represent by their own interest. So that's why the current corporate governance, normally we say the 3 layer, shareholder level, board level, management level. And also you can see that, especially after the accounting scandal in 2000 year, you can also know that the accounting scandal in 2000, Aaron, right? So the largest accounting firm, Arthur Andersen, collapsed in 2000 years, right? After that, more and more companies, more and more regulations just emphasize the corporate governance, emphasize the internal control of the companies. That's why you can see that currently the board consists some members, how they interact with each other, right? There is different interest in that. For independent directors, your interest is only to what? To make the company have good internal controls, right? And all the financial information are true and fair. And also you can receive some director remunerations from that. You do not hold any other interest in the companies. And also you can see that for the independent director, normally it will consist of lawyers, accountant with many working years experience. You share your brand, you share your image, right? So that's why you cannot let the companies to make false financial information. That's why through the accounting scandal, I just want to also let you know behind it is the corporate governance. It's very interesting for that. Okay. This is the second part. So I want to tell you who finally released the accounting scandal to the public. And it's related, it's behind its corporate governance, its mechanism behind that. Okay. That's why you can see it's very interesting for that. And the third, we still look into the accounting scandal. Before we further look into the scandal, we know, I have told before at the start of the lecture, is that Luckin Coffee grows very fast in almost 1 year. It opens more than 2,500 stores in the market. So you can see that on the first page of its IPO prospectus, it shows a figure, it shows a chart to the public. You can see this chart, right? Do you think this chart is good or not? Do you think the chart is good or not? It shows a very fast growth rate for the companies, right? It shows a very fast growth rate. This is compare its 2019 versus its 2018 performance. Its revenue increased almost 6 times, right? And also its items sold is also 5 times. Customer increase 4 times, right? So you can see that this is showed to the public to show the images that the company is a faster growing company in the market, right? This is the announcement. It's the announcement, the financial results after its IPO. After its IPO, I think it's the interim financial result in 2019 after Luckin Coffee successfully listed in the capital market, right? This is the question I want to ask. I have told that, and also you can imagine that, is at that time after Luckin Coffee successfully listed, is the company make profit or it is still in the losing money status? Do you think it's making money or it's losing money at that time after its IPO? Do you think? I just say it is still losing money. It is still losing a lot of money, right? But why capital market, why investment why investors accept Luckin Coffee? For a losing money company, why many investors want to invest? You can see from the share price chart, you can see that the Luckin Coffee is successfully listed in May 2019. The IPO price is some price around maybe 20, a bit under 20, right? But you can see that very, very quickly, several months later, it rose to 40, right? Why it can increase that fast? Because I just think it still show the capital market, show the market that it make very, very fast growth rate, right? And also, I just want to ask, for investors who invest Luckin Coffee, you have known that for the financial statement, it mainly consists of statement of financial positions and statement of profit or loss, right? Two very important financial statements. And also, it is composed of assets, liability, equity, revenue, cost, and expenses. 5 elements. My question is that, just like this kind of company, Luckin Coffee, if you are the investors, which elements do you think is the most important to the investors to value the company's valuation, to value the company? Which element is the assets or liability or equity or its revenue, cost, expense, or profit? Do you think which element is the most important for these companies? Normally, for this kind of startup companies, all the investors are concentrated on its revenue growth rate. Remember, all the company, this kind of business model. So the capital market they do not care about the assets of the company. They do not care about the liability of the company. They only care about the revenue, its growth rate, revenue growth rate of the company. The same story goes to Tesla, right? You can also see the price chart of Tesla. You can see that Tesla has been listed for many years, right? However, you can see that Tesla, before maybe 2020, Tesla losing money every year. But you can see that the price of the Tesla in the past years, it's also almost maybe increased more than 20, 30 times, right? This is why, because it first tell a good story. Tesla tell about the story, finally to replace the traditional vehicles, right? Luckin Coffee tell the story to force Chinese coffee culture, right? It has a good stories behind that. And then capital market want to prove the story behind that. That's why you can see that the capital market, you have a good story, you have to prove. The proof behind that is the revenue. This is why that you can also understand that normally for most of companies, for auditors, if you are future, you work in accounting firms, you work in big four accounting firms, you can also learn that for auditors, we deem that all the clients, no matter what kind of clients, for all the clients, we deem that revenue has significant audit risk. So this is the rules, the auditor rules, the audit standard behind that. You have to deem the revenue has significant risk behind that. That's why for auditors, we are most care about the company's revenues for that. I think you can understand behind that. And also you can see from Luckin Coffee's list, it also use Starbucks as its comparative, right? But actually, I think many of you have tasted Luckin Coffee. You can see that actually the price for Luckin Coffee is not as high as Starbucks, because most of you have said that Luckin Coffee is cheap, right? Luckin Coffee is cheap. So have you seen that the actual price for Luckin Coffee? You can see that normally listed in the X Luckin Coffee, the price for Luckin Coffee is around 20 to 30 RMB per cap, right? But actually, you have received a lot of discount coupons from Luckin Coffee. So actually, this is just when I fly back to Shanghai, I just also try Luckin Coffee, right? So I have ordered many caps using the X in Luckin Coffee. You can see that this is the actual amount, RMB amount I paid for Luckin Coffee. It's almost around, maybe sometimes it's under 5, right? But most normally it's 10 to 12 per RMB, right? But you can see that for Starbucks, normally it will cost you 30 to 40 per cap. This is the difference between the Luckin Coffee and Tim Hortons. So as early as July 2019, at that time I have made a research because I'm very interested whether Luckin Coffee is a sustainable model for that, right? Because from my personal experience, one coffee only costs you 10 to 12 RMB per cap. Could this a sustainable business model? Do you think the 10 to 12 per cap could cover all the costs and the expenses of Luckin Coffee? Do you think it can or cannot? You can imagine. You can see what is the cost per cap for Luckin Coffee? Do you think? What is the cost? Can you imagine the figure? You can imagine a figure for that. So I'm very interested in it. So as early as maybe July or August 2019, just after Luckin Coffee's IPO project, and at that time I also fly back to Shanghai. I also visit Ernst Young with my colleague, my old friends in Ernst Young, and they are just responsible for Luckin Coffee. At that time, I asked them one question. So I think Luckin Coffee's speed is so fast. It's also the fastest project, I think, for Ernst Young to make it company just incorporate almost 2 years, just become successful, listed in Nasdaq market. So I just asked them, how do you think about Luckin Coffee? But one interesting thing is that I see a lot of my friends, normally they will take Starbucks every day, go to the office. But many of them change to Luckin Coffee. That's why I'm interested in the company and then start to research that. So at that time, I found Luckin Coffee. I made a research. How do you think make research? Also started from the company's financial statement. So it's very easy for me. I have just used the company's financial statement, right? It's IPO prospectus, its quarterly announcement. I just use this figure to make some calculation because everybody just want to understand that normally for the financial statement, you see statement of financial position, statement of profit or loss. You will receive it, right? Also, in the announcement, in the company's financial results, you can see that for listing company, you can see that company will make announcement, will release to the public. There are also a lot of non-financial information. For example, how many cups has Luckin Coffee sold in the year, right? How many stores opened in current year. These figures we normally call the non-financial figures. For non-financial figures, you can also find in the company's announcement. So very easy. I just use the company's announcement to make some calculation. So for my calculation, I calculate that the average sales price, the actual average sales price for Luckin Coffee is almost 8 to 10 RMB per cap. It's actual price the customer pay. How did the figure come from? Very easy. You use the total revenue from coffee products, right? Divided by the total cups it's sold in the period. So it is the price, actual price, right? So it's the revenue is only 8 to 10 per cap RMB. However, when I calculate the cost and the expenses of Luckin Coffee per cap, also I use a very simple method to make the calculation. Because in the profit and loss statement, it listed all the significant costs and expenses of Luckin Coffee. You can see that all these expenses are listed in its financial statement. And also, I do only one thing. I divide it by the total caps, right? Very easy for that. So, at that time, I calculate that the total cost cap for Luckin Coffee to sold is almost 30, more than 30 per cap. That is to say, when Luckin Coffee sell a cup of coffee, it will make a loss almost $20, right? $20 to $25, right? So this is also the question I want to ask you. Is it sustainable? Do you think is it sustainable? Do you think it's totally a lie, a cheat? Oh, there is some logic behind this. It's very interesting, right? So this is why I think when you learn more and more financial knowledge, you can see a lot of interesting stories behind that. This is the question I just want to ask you first. Is this a sustainable business model for Luckin Coffee? Do you think in one day Luckin Coffee will make money, or it can never make money for that? Okay, this is just, I also tell you that the revenue and the cost behind Luckin Coffee. This is what I found in the July 2019. Its business model, its revenue and the cost model behind that, right? So also, until today, I still ask you a question. Is this sustainable or not? Okay, we will show the answer maybe on the last page of that, okay? This is the third about the revenue and the cost part. And the fourth is how the management make the false information, make the fraud, right? So this is also the story. I did not, due to the time limit, I will not deeply analysis its fraud. But I will just tell you how the management, how the external research, normally you want to analyze listing companies, how you can discover, or you can discover some tricky of the company through its financial information. Okay, so the accounting scandal released to the public, what is the false information comes from? Revenue. So it is released that almost 80, just after the company's result, starting from, I think, Q2, quarter 2 or quarter 3, start from quarter 2, the company starts to make false financial information as released by the board of directors, right? At that time, almost 70 to 80% of its revenue are false. It's very terrible, horrible. I think even horrible for that. Just from Q2 or Q3. Also very interesting. Why Q2 or Q3? Because for Q1, all the information has been audited and signed by Ernst Young, right? Because do you remember the IPO date is May 2019? So all the financial figures before Q1, Ernst Young should be responsible for that, right? But starting from Q2, for quarterly financial information, it is unaudited financial information. You have seen that I have shown you a picture that this is the September, the third quarter of 2019, right? it shows that unaudited financial information. So this information is released to the public, but it is only prepared by the management team. It's not reviewed or audited by Ernst Young, which means that all the figures from Q2 and Q3, the false information released to the public, Ernst Young will not make any responsibility. That's why it's also all the information behind this is very interesting for that. I just want to let you know that. And also you can see that almost 17 to 18, its revenue is fraud. So normally how we can discover the fraud behind that? Normally, if you just only see the financial statement, there are only financial figures there. Normally, you cannot discover any fraud. That's why you can see that sometimes when in my lecture, I always say that for Big Four accounting firms, it's more and more difficulty for them to discover fraud. Why? Because normally for accounting firms, they only use financial information. You have also learned that the financial ratio analysis. If you have taken just kind of ACCA courses, you have taken, I just think for the financial ratio analysis in the accounting courses, right? You have to make an analysis report. But you can see that all your analysis is only focused on financial information. However, just for normally current management team, for current CFO, they are also ACCA members, right? They are also CPA. They have a lot of knowledge on accounting. So they will, if they want to make false information, they will just consider all the possible impact on the financial statement. And they can make the financial statement more complicated to let you harder to discover that they have made some false information there. This is normally many listing companies, the CFOs or maybe the financial teams, they will consider if they want to do false information. They have also deep knowledge on accounting. That's why you can see accounting firm also more and more difficult to find the false information. But however, why just kind of Muddy Water or other institutions, they can find this. The way behind this, the logic behind this is that they normally use the non-financial information and the financial information together to make the analysis. Just like my previous analysis, to analyze Luckin Coffee's revenue and cost, you can see that in the financial statement, it only shows revenue and cost expenses, right? But I can use the management information, non-financial information, per cap, per store, to analyze its true actual price of Luckin Coffee, its true cost of Luckin Coffee. This is a very simple way. I just want to explain to you that if you want to analyze the company's financial information, if you want to have some valuable information, valuable conclusion, you have to use financial and non-financial information together. Why? Because for financial department, it's harder to manipulate non-financial information. So financial information, they can manipulate. However, for the non-financial information, it's hard to manipulate, right? If you bind it together, you can find some interesting conclusion behind this. This is normally Muddy Water, this kind of research institution, which also just target to focus on just to release the financial false information, accounting scandal of listing companies. They are more focused on that. There were also some making money logic behind their business model. Okay, that's why they are normally used. Also, how the false information discovered by Luckin Coffee? Why the auditor cannot first place discover? You can see that how the Luckin Coffee's financial information is released. Its false information has been hidden where? It has been hidden in the sales order each store. You can see that when you make an order, you can receive an order number, right? If you order some Luckin Coffee through the app, you will receive an order number. Normally for order number, we think the number should be consecutive, right? It should be consistent, right? However, the management team make a fraud, make the order number not consistent. This is the first they find. They just make some tricky in the order number, sales order. So the sales order in each store has been make it false, right? Make it much larger than the actual sales order, right? So do you think for Ernst Young, is it possible to assign a lot of staff to each store to see the order number? It's impossible, right? And also you do not have enough time for that. But actually, the fraud finally released by the financial institution, the way is that they sent 92 full-time and 1,400 part-time investigators, collected more than 25,000 tickets, right? They just stay at the store whole day, right, to count the actual numbers, actual customers, and then they compare their number with the announcement released by the company, right? They made a compare. They found the difference is very huge, and then they just question the company. Is that sales true or not? This is the way that they find the false information behind that. You can see that. So this is actually, I just want to tell you that this is the actually audit. If you want to be a fraud investigator, if you want to be an expert on listing company, if you want to be the expert in investing, this is the way, the truly way that you need to learn how to find the fraud behind that. This is the typical, but I think it's the fundamental ways to find the errors or false information behind that. This is how the fraud is discovered. I just want to tell you, okay. But due to the time limit, I will not further analysis the fraud comes from, the detailed fraud. The last part is that, sorry, I'm a bit take more time than expected. The last part is how is Luckin Coffee today? Do you think after the accounting scandal, is Luckin Coffee disappear? Do you think Luckin Coffee disappear? Is Luckin Coffee still listed in the capital market? This is the last part of our lecture. I just want you to know the capital market. Okay, so for the U.S. capital market, it's quite interesting, right? After the accounting scandal, Luckin Coffee has leave Nasdaq. It has been removed from the Nasdaq. However, it is still listed because in the U.S. capital market, there is also a specific market we call the OTC market, over-the-counter market. And also in the OTC market, there is a special classification we call the pink market. Pink market. So it's very interesting. What is pink market? Maybe you have seen a movie, Wall Street Wolf, right? So Luckin Coffee goes to the pink market go to the pink market in the OTC market. It is still listed. So you can still search Luckin Coffee. It is listed. And the current price by the end of this week, it is 14. And another interesting thing I show you that in the past year, starting from 2020, after the accounting scandal, the lowest price for Luckin Coffee is almost 2 to 3. I just told you, right? $2 to $3. However, today, the price is $14. $14. You can see that in the almost past 1 year, Luckin Coffee, also the share price also increased almost 7 times, right? you can see why. Still say for a company with false information, with accounting scandal, currently it's good, right? Also, if you invest after the accounting scandal, you can have a much higher return than you invest in other areas, right? It's almost 7 times increase in its stock price. The last question is also why behind that. It's also very interesting. So this, I just want to, I found it, I put it in the last part. I just want to tell you, to let you know that why the stock also increased a lot, even the accounting scandal released to the public. Normally, after the accounting scandal, you can see that the price will decrease, will turn down, right? It also will turn down a lot, even then it's under its value, because the capital market do not have any confidence, do not have any trust in the company, right? So you can see that 40 to 2.5 maybe at that time. However, I just tell you, for the first part, for the second part, do you think Luckin Coffee has value? We do not consider the accounting scandal, do not consider the false information. My only question is that, did the story for Luckin Coffee has value? Do you think? Do you think more and more Chinese people drink coffee every day? Is this correct? Do you think the price for Luckin Coffee just suitable for Chinese people? The price for Starbucks is too high, right? But the price for maybe around a coffee costs 10 to 20 is suitable. I think many people could afford this, right? And also, Luckin Coffee has already more than 3,000 stores opened. And also, you can see that I can find, when I just go back to Shanghai, normally I have to just drink Starbucks or Costa if I want to drink some coffees, right? But currently, just in the current years, when I fly back to Shanghai, I just think almost with the same quality, right? But the price is much lower. But it's much easier because before I go to the store, maybe 3 or 5 minutes, I can just order in the app, and then I can just pick up when I just go to the store to pick up, right? So it's very convenient for me. That's why you can see that there is value behind it. So Luckin Coffee, I always told to my colleague or also to some, it has value. It chooses a very perfect story to attract a capital market, right? But it's too hurry. They want to let the stock price increase high. They want to just to make money from the capital market, right? That's why they make false information in it. Otherwise, you can see that behind that, actually, the business has a good story, has some value under that. And also, many people just are accustomed to drink to drink coffee every day because it's not so expensive, right? So that's why I just think for the coffee market in China, it increased very fast in these years. This is the first value behind this, right? And the second, what is the second behind that? Also the model I showed in the revenue and the cost part of the model, right? At that time, you can see that a coffee costs you, the average price is 8 to 10, and the cost is 30, right? You can compare these two figures. You say, oh, it's only totally a lie, a cheat. It's use investor money to make a false stories, to make the false story. Actually, the Luckin Coffee cannot make money at all. It's not sustainable. However, I just think when you continue to use the app, you can find that the first coffee when you download is free of charge. The second, maybe it's only 10% you need to pay, right? So it's only 2 to 3 RMB. And then it will give you some half discount, right? It's normally called you 10 to 12. So normally you can see that customers are also just to think they can afford something around 10 to $15. So you can see the price for Luckin Coffee is gradually increased, right? The first thing is to attract you to download the app. It will send you a coffee free of charge. And then the second coffee, you will only pay a very, very little money. You can just have a coffee. You can also use. So you can buy the second. And then the third, the fourth, the price increase gradually. I just think, actually, one day, the Luckin Coffee, the price average price will increase to 15, right? And the more and more people will drinking coffee, I think the coffee consumption per store will also increase, right? So at that time, you can see that many cost items, just like rental, right? Just like staff, this kind of, we call it a fixed cost, right? With the increase in its volume per store, the fixed cost will also decrease, right? So with this business model, you can see that the cost maybe will decrease from 30 maybe to 25 and then to 20. And I think one day they will finally break even. Also just like what Didi's model, right? This is why I just think you can see today why Luckin Coffee is still listed, but listed in pink market, right? But the price has been almost 7 times increased. This is the logic behind this is that actually the capital market thinks that Luckin Coffee told a great story, but with false accounting information. And also when the accounting scandal finally dissolved, you can see that in this year, Luckin Coffee finally paid 180 million to settle the accounting fraud, right? With the SEC, right? So actually the story passed. Okay. And then we can say that from today, from this lecture, I just want to give you some review of the Luckin Coffee and its current situation. I just want you to consider, do you think currently its price is 14, right? Do you think Luckin Coffee, its model, do you agree with me? Is it still a sustainable model could be continued? Or you can think that I do not agree with you. Luckin Coffee will finally, they cannot make money one day, right? Its price is too high, right? This is, I just want to still to consider the business model, the value of a company, the first. The second, I just want you to have a close look about Luckin Coffee, its cost structure, its revenue structure. Also, many Chinese new corporations also they use this, especially internet companies. They use this strategy to develop. Do you agree with this strategy or not? This is the lecture that I want to let you know, let you consider behind this. And also the last, I want to know that how about the current corporate governance for a company? What is the true mechanism behind this? What is the true roles for board members? How did the board members act from this? This is also the main topic from our today's lecture. Okay, and I'm a bit sorry that we take too much time, a bit take more minutes than we expected. And the last, just give me 1 minute. I just want to also thanks for the invitation of ACCA and Golden Education. And just give me 1 minute to also educate, to have give some introduction for the Golden Education. Okay, so I just think Golden Education is I just think it's China's largest professional financial training organizations. currently it's opened more than 50 branches and had a workforce of 88,000 full-time employees. So I just think Golden Education is the plan. Is one of the China's largest financial educations, and I'm very honored to be invited by Golden Education and the ACCA to provide this kind of lectures to you. And I just hope that you can have some, you can know more, just to know the true listing company, how they operate, right? What is the stories behind the company? What is the story for the capital market? Why investors are interested in investing some companies? How did the investor make judgment they make to invest companies? This is, I just think, very honored to give you due to the time limit, I could only say a very brief introduction. I just want to know it's very interesting for the capital market, and I hope that you can take more time to know the capital market, to know the stories, to see the latest news of the capital market. This will help you for your career development. Especially I think all of you want to go to the financial industry, right? You want to, no matter you want to be an accountant, no matter you want to be a financial team in a very large company, no matter you want to go to the large investing bank, this also, you need to know this kind of knowledge. You need to know the stories behind that. This is, I think, the stories I want to tell you today. Okay. And I really appreciate your time for that. And also last, I think if you, some of you maybe are interested in ACCA information because this is a lecture invited by ACCA. So I just think if also you are interested in the ACCA information, especially for the P level, professional level knowledge point, you can scan the barcode. Okay, you can scan the code. You can obtain some free consultation, some free knowledge points, free study material. This is the last part I just want to tell you. Okay. Okay, thanks so much. And I really appreciate your time here for almost 1.5 hours. But okay, last time, if you still have some questions, you can just you can print on the chat areas, and I think I can answer your questions. Okay, if no questions, I think our lectures is finished today. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thanks for your time. Can ACCA convert to Hong Kong CPA? I just think after 2005, ACCA cannot directly convert to Hong Kong CPA. When you register before 2005, ACCA can directly convert to Hong Kong CPA. After that, you have to take maybe 1 or 2 exams, and then you can obtain the Hong Kong CPA title. Yeah, okay.